Hello everybody, BMS here, and welcome back to Nostril Vision, featuring Creepy Mustache Man, whose bottom eyelid seems to move every time he opens his mouth. I mean, Jesus Christ, I know this is supposed to be dramatic, being the final stage and all, but I can't stop looking at that crazy eye thing he's got going on. This right here creeped me out more than any of the crazy alien designs the Contra games have come up with thus far. Anywho, this is the final stage for our pal Brownie, and you get here by following Deadeye Joe at the end of Stage 1 and surrendering at the end of Stage 4, which pretty much makes this the technical bad ending. But personally, I like this ending a bit more than a couple of the others, so while it's not my favorite, it's not the worst in my book. But look at what I've done. I've jumped the gun by talking about the ending and completely left the final stage without a comment, which, the reason for this is because the final level, aside from the mini-boss and the final boss, can be summarized like this. Bahamut is in space. He basically said fuck you to his base on Earth, thus he rigged some apparently crappy bombs which have caused the base to be engulfed in an incredibly slow-moving fire, which we now have to escape, all the while avoiding these little mutated cronies because, well, the Doctor was just a little bitch like that and shot them all with his little mutation ray thing. Make sense? Of course it does! Also, this part of the level goes on way longer than it should. Even after this incredibly long monologue, we're still not done with it. Now, on a vaguely serious note, this stage isn't all that hard, especially with Brownie's double jump. Just don't rush and you shouldn't have anything to worry about, except for maybe jumping blindly into one of the numerous pits around here. As for the little green guys, they're weak, they constantly jump on the screen, and there's quite a few of them. All this adds up to meaning, hold down the fire button and you'll live. Simple as that. Just be careful that sometimes you'll get one that'll glitch through the floor or the ceiling, and he'll jump on you from out of nowhere. That's pretty rare, but it has happened before. Anyway, we finally reached the space elevator that'll take us to, you guessed it, Bahamut Space Station! That makes sense, doesn't it? Also note that Mega Man X8 did not rip this concept off in any way whatsoever. Pure coincidence, which is actually true. Anyway, it's time to pose a question. Would you all agree that a huge fucking space elevator would be rather hard to miss? That's a given, of course, so perhaps you'll also agree that anything attached to the either end of the said elevator would be just as easily found. Yes? Of course. Well then here's my main question. We spent 4 stages worth trying to track this motherfucker down, when he's been here, at this little space station thing, for damn near the whole time. Are the detective skills of the hardcore really that shitty? I leave that to you to answer, my little viewer people. Back on track, we're fighting the evil Dr. Mandrake in his diabolical wall-humping machine. Now, you've already seen the first half of the battle, which is simple enough. The hardest part is avoiding those little extendable tube things that fly around, which, call that hard, is kind of an overstatement. Regardless, once you get him down to about half health, he'll enter his final phase, where he simply walks clockwise around the elevator. The catch, however, is that the more damage he takes, the longer his legs get, making him both faster and harder to avoid. But, since we're using Brownie, who has half the hitbox of any other character, this is a piece of cake. And with Mandrake out of the way, we finally reached the space station in like roughly a minute. Kinda makes you wonder just how fast that elevator was going. Anywho, we enter the final boss chamber, and what do we find? Why, it's Mother Brain on crack! And some mighty big Tiefus to boot. Anywho, as with all bad guys of note, Bahamut is going to give us his final little, haha, I win, I've accomplished building the weapon slash item slash whatever the fuck I've been trying to do for the entire game. Now instead of just blowing you to bits, I'm gonna give you a fighting chance, haha, haha. Also, really? You've created this giant planet-killing alien, and you named it BIG MAGNUM? How am I supposed to take that even halfway seriously? Oh look, millions of people were just killed by BIG MAGNUM! I mean, it sounds like a fucking Ron Jeremy film gone horribly wrong. Okay, enough of the BIG MAGNUM jokes. For now. Let's see if I can regain my train of thought here. This boss has 3 forms altogether, and his first form is extremely annoying, since it has the most attacks it can throw at you. Most all of them are fast-paced, So if you don't know exactly what's coming, you're gonna wind up being just another victim of the Ron Jeremy condom. I mean, Big Magnum. Sorry, okay, that's the last one for a while. I promise. I hope. Anywho, your target, if you haven't already figured it out, is the tip of that little snake cannon thing that he's waving around at you. The trick, you ask? You can only do damage when it fires something at you. Speaking of which, it has 4 attacks that it'll use, and it always uses them in order. So once you learn how to dodge them, it's just a matter of keeping track of which attack he's going to throw at you next. Also notice the bitchin' boss tune playing. If I had to pick one thing about the Contra series that I love, it's the music. And this game definitely shines among the top tier. This track, which serves as the final boss music, is known as The Last Springsteen. Some of you may be too young to get the reference, but major kudos to you that understand it without having to Google. And with that, we finally moved on to Mr. Magnum's second phase, in which the cannon thing turns into a metallic bust of Bahamut that spits out a homing shot. And this is what sums up his second phase. Dodge the homing shot while shooting Bahamut in the face. Simple enough. Also take note that with each progression of the boss phase, Big Magnum looks more and more depressed. Probably because he's becoming self-aware, and he realizes that he was named after a latex cover that goes on a well-endowed man's dick. Regardless, his final form is a cakewalk. The cannon turns into a railgun-looking thing, and shoots out a fireball that shoots out rapid fire in 3 directions. Once again, this is all there is to this form, and it's the final one. So once you beat this one, Bahamut and his Magnum are down for the count. Now you may be asking just what the hell this douchebag was talking about, but you shouldn't, as it's explained in the other endings, which we'll be getting to. Now, when I said this is generally looked at as the bad ending, it's because of a number of reasons, actually. Number 1, the main character died when the space station exploded. Number 2, millions of people were killed and most of the Earth was left in ruins after Bahamut's attack. And finally, number 3, those millions of people, they were killed by something named Big Magnum. I mean, really? How the fuck are you gonna explain that one when you get to the pearly gates? Yes, my child. And how did you meet your end? I was killed by Big Magnum. I mean, I don't really think that's gonna score you any points with that one. Anyway, as I said before, I don't really find this to be the worst ending possible. It's more like the second worst. But you'll see what I mean. Anyway, there's nothing else to be said about this arc of the story. Everything was wrapped up in a roundabout sort of way, so it's all good. Now just kick back and enjoy the somber credits, and I'll see you next time for the B storyline. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all later.